again, Jack.
Hero he walk uro kipits I way that do eriki. I way ti Dari Pokus. He said this rainbow that I have stood here is my soldier. So the rainbow is called Ura Kipits. That means ground reflection, or Ura refers to ground. Kipits means to shine or a reflection. And he also calls it Radipakusu, meaning soldier. And he said, Rutiraruo, all this time. When you see it, meaning the rainbow, means I am in control of all. So the Pawnee people, all through the ages, since they were brought to consciousness, they always say that whenever they see a rainbow, where they say God is over all, that is his soldier, to show us that he is in control and over all. Turn that. Kipits is hard to. It's very difficult to interpret these words. Uda is the first syllables of Udar, meaning ground. Kipits is means an arc, or it could also mean to shine. So, or a reflection. So the Pawnees always say Ura Kipits, meaning an arch ground reflection. And when they sit down with younger people, the older people, when they sit down with younger people to go through some of the lectures in whatever dance they may be affiliated with, the old religious dances and ceremonies they used to have. Well, they would say, that means when there is a rainbow standing. You will notice, you will see. Kutitahurus, it means it's arched, or it's arced, or it's round. And then they say, if you look at the ground, Hawari Kuturo means it is similar. If you look at the rainbow, it's arched. And if you look at if you're standing, wherever you're standing, if you look at the horizon of the earth from left to right or right to left, there seems to be an arch. It is rounded. These are a few of the things that I just felt like today that it just came into my mind, so I thought I'd say it. because these are little lessons that I was told, and I don't know if there are any more Pawnees in the tribe that remember any of these things, if they were told. I was told because my grandfather knew these things, and I was with him in these dances, ceremonies that we used to have, the very last part of them. I was in on some of them when I was a little boy with my grandfather, leading him around, and so as a result I listened to a lot of these lectures in these ceremonies, and then when we'd get home I'd ask Grandpa what did he mean by some certain lecture, and then he would go through it again with me and be a little more specific in the wording of these lectures. Since most of the people at that time were older men, there are no more of them living anymore, and I doubt very seriously if there are any Pawnees living today that know any of these lectures or anything that the Pawnees used to use in their ceremonies.
Okay, what do the Pawnees call Catholics?
Those who have cover on their heads.
You know, that's very interesting, isn't it?
And Hindus or Arabs, you know, they have their heads wrapped up.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call them too. Only it's, you know, they say this one's, Catholics say covered heads. The other is wrapped heads.
Wrapped heads.
Is covered heads. Means
Yeah, there's a
wrapped
slight
heads.
difference in about the fifth syllable from the end. I bet that Catholic, I bet that's a real old word, isn't it?
Might be.
Because they could be taken about the sisters who had heads that were covered, or the earlier Catholic
monks.
Fathers had the cowls. If they maybe they saw pictures of them, or maybe they, I don't know where they would have first remembered seeing the Catholics. 1720, that 1750, around there somewhere, that Pawnee Maha visited a Catholic in Illinois. Well, they called the Jews the devils or something, didn't they? No, that was the South Americans. Excuse me, I'm mixing myself up here. Some of the Guatemalan words for Jewish people were those with horns or something, you know. Morris told me that.
Did the Catholics spread that?
I imagine it came through something like that. You know, it's funny that there doesn't seem to be any kind of a story about Dunbar, who was there so, you know, did so much writing about the Pawnees and everything. 1830s and 40s isn't that long ago.
Well, you see, what one band, they didn't know anything about the other bands, you know.
That's right.
They probably said, I mean, the chief, the upper class people probably knew that so-and-so had a visitor or somebody staying in his home. But, you know, just
a few people.
Yeah, and then they, it was soon forgotten because, you know, people didn't talk about it. Asuru tira rutsi. Tira haskawabi. Tatkiwati.
I Kiwati.
Kiwati is making less or unraveling or something like that.
Unraveling or making less.
Or removing.
I think I'm going to take those in and try to wash them out. See how they do. A woman, when expressing disapproval, will say,
Man too.
And a man will say that too.
Yeah,
That sound, in English is sort of a questioning sound, like, I don't know, But in Pawnee, it's more forceful, isn't it?
I understand.
Disapproval.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a lot of guys at home, they use it. We used to use it like maybe somebody would last minute make a shot, make a basket, win the game. Everybody be around, We'd all be standing in one place. We'd all get through with them. We'd come over, we'd all say,
Oh dear. That looks like the same girl, doesn't it? What is the word for thundering?
The word for thundering is tikiri. It thundered. Tikiriru means it's thundering, meaning it's shaking or it's vibrating, more like vibration.
Okay.
If a person is sick and has shakes, and shaking, when you say "tudabikiriru," "tudabikiriru."
That first part that comes in front of the
means is referring to a body. It's referring to something like it could be also kind of leaning towards momentum.
Say it again. I want to hear it.
Tudabikiriru.
Okay.
Now, if then Tudabit means it is shaking. It means vibration too, but it refers to like if a truck goes by and your windows shake in your house, or airplane goes real low and your windows shake in your house. Then you say Tudabit.
Wit.
could hear, you know, and then they'd start telling about where they were going to go, you know, and I used to hear them talk about those different landmarks. But I never, you know, I just heard them in Indian, and, you know, I have no way
of knowing what they were or where they were.
Yeah, just, you know, they just said, then they said, Paw Cuddy is Penis Rock, I mean, Penis Mountain.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only one I know.
That's that one up there near Scott's Bluff.
Scott's Bluff, yeah, Chimney Rock.
Yeah, Chimney Rock.
Then I heard, you know, later on I heard fellas say, Chimney Rock, you know. Okay, now Scott's Bluff also had a name, but yeah, I can't think of it.
Well, while you're thinking about it, tell me what that word for buds are that when you talk about squash plant. Tell me the word.
You got that on?
Mm-hmm.
Turn it on. What's this?
Okay.
Paukais. Paukais is the word in Pawnee for those little flowers that appear on certain type of plants when they're from which buds are formed, you know.
Yeah.
And this is what this is the name of them for them in Pawnee.
You said that when we saw our little Pawnee squash. It's got little tiny green buds on it now.
That's what they would say. Wetipaka isari.
Okay.
We means current. Now. Pakais means buds. Sari refers to, like, it's a suffix like ing.
Mm-hmm.
Wetipaka isari.
Okay.
Wetipaka isari. Wetipaka isari.
What's that is in there?
I don't know.
For the verb, I guess.
I gave it to you a while ago, and I mean, you know, I just can't pick out the word in the middle. I have to go from start to finish. And the word rakiriku, it means, literally, it means the eye. But it also means seed. It's really, what it really means is like the seed that is saved to plant for reproduction. Grain, like
corn.
Corn. That had, you know, corn and beans and squash and different things. So those seeds that they were saving to plant is called rakirig, meaning the eye, but it really means the seed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I used to hear, you know, back when I was a child, the old people would be talking, and they would say, sometimes, you know, talking about the population,
mm-hmm.
and how many white people were and how few Indians were. The old people used to say, well, Tehrakiri means they are seedy.
Sorry.
But Tsarikstaka, meaning white people, they are seedy. Of course, now, the word seedy has degrading connotations.
Nowadays.
But it meant, you know, that they were reproductive, you know.
Prolific.
Yeah. And meaning that, you know, they, whenever two people got married, well, they would have 7 or 8 children.
I probably saw all these pioneers coming through with a wagon full of kids.
Yeah, they'd have 7 or 8 children. And back in those days, you know, this was the thing. The more children you had, the more land that you could take care of, you know, farming.
That's right.
And the Indians, well, you know, they didn't have, sometimes they were, once in a while, they'd be a large family, but mostly 3 or 4, you know.
Never as many as 7 or 8, like some of those people they saw. Or else they lost a lot of children, so they just didn't live.
And so this is, these are...
Words of reproduction, seeds.
Full blood in. I think I told her yes, but you know, it just you know, yes, and she said anyway, it came about. I told her, you know, my people. You anything in your tribe? I think is what she said. Anything among your people? And I said yes. I was born hereditary chief, but I've never. I've been in school and away from home, and I've never been try to be in the tribal government. And well, anyway, she I don't know how she said it, but anyway. Being from hereditary, the line being passed down hereditarily, well, you know, this is when she stuck her hand out, see? And she said, she stuck her hand out and she said, you're going to be a leader of your people one of these days. And I said, well, yes, but maybe not for a while. Talked to her, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes, you know, a little. And then she went on down, stood in front of each one of them, and, you know, looked at them, you know, and go to the next one. She went, I guess, maybe 4 or 5, and then came back.
How did she seem like you? How was her personality? Did she seem like she was really interested, or she was just...
Yeah, she seemed like she was really interested, you know. None of the men came down. None of the Secret Service men came down. The captain was standing there. The king was standing up on a steps.
Was that King George?
Yeah, was he George? No, George the VI.
George the VI.
Yeah, they came out, and then there's this porch. Steps that way, steps this way, you know, and she came down. I just want to get a closer look at it. She did ask one of the guys. She said, "You're not Indian, are you?" Ben Shoemaker, I think it was. Had blue eyes, you know. Yes, ma'am, I'm Indian. Yes, ma'am. She kind of smiled a little bit, you know.
What did you call her? Did you say, Your Majesty, or what?
No.
Did you have any embarrassment about that?
I didn't know what to say. I didn't say anything, you know. I talked without addressing her, and she talked to me.
You know, you're probably the only one in this family that's had any contact with somebody so powerful. You know, there's just very few real powerful people in the world, and that's why.
She wasn't very tall. She was just a little bit on the heavy side. Very beautiful. Boy, her skin was really smooth and she had on kind of a light color, not white. It was kind of cream, and she really made you feel easy, you know.
That's an art. Where was Elizabeth and Margaret? Were they right?
They were standing up there with
their father.
Yeah, and her father was. Their father was a real nervous fellow. He'd put his hands in his pocket, then he'd put them behind him. Then he'd put one in his pocket and put the other one down, and then he'd put the other down. He'd put them behind him, and then he'd put them on his side. You know, I mean, he was just. And to me, now when I think about it, and seeing thinking about the way he was standing up there, he had a ruddy complexion, real ruddy complexion. And in the TV, when you see Ford, I got those two guys real favorite.
Except he had a thinner face. I think he was a fairly thin-faced man.
Maybe they were about the same height. There's something about maybe the way they carry themselves. I don't know. Maybe the slope of their shoulders, or there was something about the Ford when I saw him. Just
for a minute.
I could just see the king standing there.
Did she ask you what your name was?
I don't remember. I think she did. I think she did, but I just don't remember. I told her I was Pawnee. Yeah, those two girls, I think they were 15 and 14 or...
Well, let's see, 1938.
13.
That's right, because Queen Elizabeth is
14.
just slightly younger than I am. So they would have, and I was, in 1938, I was
39.
in the 9th grade.
Mm-hmm.
I was in the 9th grade, so that makes me 14 or so, 15. Well, as Mike says, you're probably the only person in Oklahoma that has shook the hand of Queen Elizabeth. Amazing. What was her name? Wasn't that?
Queen Elizabeth. There's only 2 Queen Elizabeths.
That's right. Oh.
Was she... Was she Queen Mary?
No, that's the Dowager Queen. She had the...
That's what that encyclopedia's all for. Let's see.
The Queen Mother.
Queen continued to reside by the town. They don't tell what the Queen's name is.
They'll say now. But when God blesses you, when He shows you something, referring to the vision,
Yes.
that all people, most all of the Pawnees used to seek, then they say, now, when God shows you something, then you'll know.
Yeah, then you'll understand.
Yeah, just like and that I guess that was one of the things that was a reinforcing factor for. Just like now, so well now when later on in school you'll come to that.
Right now you couldn't understand it, but when you get there you will.
Or you'll understand it better. I'm going to go and fast for 4 days.
Yeah, something you'd be expected to do.
Location. An official at the government crisis center there says, quote, a very brave...
A lot of the older white people came down, they sit in their cars, and they...
Okay, what year was this? They had ball games and then they have little dances after the 30s?
From 1930 on...
That's interesting.
1932, the city had the banker. They had a team. I think 3 churches in town had teams. Then they'd go down there and play,
Yeah.
And we'd all go down and watch those old men play and have a lot of fun, Then Hugh Walker. This is when they
That's
started.
when they got that
That's when
team.
he said, I'd like to get. How about you young fellas? He said, he said, I'm going to go over to Ponca City, and he said, I think I'll talk to whoever he was and see if we could get in their league. So he came back, and first thing he said, well, we got a game. If you boys want to, we can start practicing, and we'll get in the league. He said, fact is, tomorrow night we can go play our first game. We had never practiced, and we had to play Ponca City, and that was the best team.
Wow.
We went up there and beat the heck out of him. With no practice, you know. Just
That's
well,
good.
just you know, in the evening we'd all go out there and play workup until there was enough for 2 teams, and then we'd choose up, you know, and we'd play against each other, you know. But that was just for, you know, 3 or 4 innings, you know. Well, so we weren't.
No, you
We
were
weren't
good.
what you would call cold, really, but we didn't have a team. So I'd say, well, I'll move something with my foot.
Kind of a sunny but a sticky day across the state of Oklahoma for Mother's Day. Again, I'll touch base with you, Craig, Ottawa, Delaware, a flight morning until 8 p.m.
Okay.
And he would question me about it, you know. Then if he wanted, he would get his buffalo on. Then he'd put it on there. He'd have a little tallow in his mouth. Then he'd make a little vacuum and with his tongue put that tallow on that opening of that buffalo horn.
I see.
And at first he'd have to decide on the size, you know, of the area, how big a buffalo horn to use. And after he got through, after there was a vacuum there for a while, then he'd take it off. Then you could see the outline.
Yes.
Then he would get a little pocket knife, about the kind I got, a little bit of one. Then he would sharpen that son of a gun as sharp as he could get it.
Oh dear.
Where he could just get a paper like this and get that knife blade and just go that way and just cut it, you know.
Just with a light stroke. Huh?
Yeah, just, you know, no pressure. Then he would take that knife, you know, like that. Now you pick it into a 90-degree angle. Then he would just start that area there that was outlined where he'd start hacking it.
The little tiny cuts.
Yeah. And you could see just a little blood start coming out, you know. Not
Not a
it
lot.
don't run, it just shows, it starts showing, you know. And tell you not to cut it too much. And just hack it enough to where it'll just show blood.
Little beads of blood.
But not run, you know. If it runs, it's too much. Then after he gets through, then he puts that horn on there. Then he puts that vacuum on it, then with his tongue he'll put that tallow against it. Then he'll let it sit a while. Then when he gets through, he'll take it off. There'll be a big blood clot will come out of the horn. Maybe he might put it in another area too.
How long would that be on there to make a blood clot?
I don't know.
Half hour, an hour?
Yeah, half hour.
What did they do if you had a twisted knee or something? I mean, where it obviously a man had badly twisted his knee, would they bind it up, or would they do that?
Yeah,
Or
they bind it up. That is, I've known of them. See, this is part of the sweat house deal. You go in a sweat house and you sweat that up, and then they'll wrap it. Next day you go in a sweat house again, and they'll wrap it up. And then maybe you rest a day. And then you go in a sweat house again. And then they'll wrap it up. Then
Using
they'll tell you, well, now let that go a while, you know. Let that, just stay off of it.
Yeah.
But that sweat house is wonderful. Hey, you can see.
It's just like the softness, the Swedish or the Finnish shoes. It's the same effect.
Yeah, you can see how wonderful it would be, you know.
How old were you when you went in there the last time? Yes.
I don't know. Out to the farm, I was probably about 13 or 14. Then we moved to town. We moved to town and we put a little sweat house out in the back.
Oh, in the backyard.
Yeah. I don't know. We went once or twice in there, and then old man died. Died in 1928. I was maybe 13, huh?
Yes.
Then after that, I went after that. Grandma and I'd go out I'd take Grandma somewhere. Out, you know, to the country. Somebody'd call her, and maybe they'd have a sweat house. The women would go in first, old ladies, and then they'd come out and we'd build a fire and heat the rocks again, then we'd go in. All the young fellas and the old guys.
You came out of there, did you rub yourself off, or did you rub yourself off inside? You said, you told me once that the dirt just seems to, the skin just seems to roll off. You just...
And I also told you got a tub of water out there that you wash off in. And you go right to bed. Boy, there isn't another feeling like it.
This was recorded on Sunday, May the 8th, 1977. Garland Blaine discussing his grandfather's methods of curing in the sweat lodge, Oklahoma City.
Yeah. And there's all kinds of views around it.
Yeah, look how much we heard yesterday.
I mean,
May the 14th.
Today's the 15th. Tomorrow's the 16th.
Well, we know yesterday. What did we learn yesterday? Well, we learned that we learned some of the reasons why Tommy didn't get reelected, according to Ruth Kahneman. The thing is, you never know whether those reasons are real reasons, but they're the reasons for some people. Like Ruth said, that some people didn't like the fact that there were all those white men working in the tribal office. And they were telling Tommy what to do. And they were writing projects. And he didn't know anything about it. And that Tommy was the old thing, using tribal money for things he shouldn't. And he was spending some of it on illicit activities. And somebody had been collecting had found out, what they said, they found out had receipts from motels. Now, how would they get receipts from motels? I mean, they don't give those things up, you know. You just can't walk in and say, let me have a receipt or something.
You might subpoena them, but heck, a court has to say give them up.
Then we heard that Tommy went to Washington just before the election. They went up there to see about the clinics. What'd you call those clinics?
Day clinic?
No. Contract? Huh?
Contract?
She said that what Tommy and his... Tommy, she didn't say the rest... Oh, Alvin Leavingfox and Tommy were in favor of having a clinic there rather than a hospital. And from the clinic you could be referred to any hospital you wanted to go to. You wouldn't have to go to the Indian hospital if you didn't want to. Is that the idea, that it was going to take the place of the Indian hospital?
Yeah. There would be no more in the hospital, so you couldn't go to it even if you wanted.
Okay. And Ruth brought up the point that she had told Alvin that what good would it do if the funds ran out and they wouldn't have any hospital funds to any... You want his funds?
Yeah.
You don't want to.
Could you get me a bowl?
This big one up?
That's the one.
Okay. She said that the funds are always, there's never enough money at the Indian hospital there now for teeth, or they'd run out for glasses or teeth, or... That doesn't look like it's too good, does it?
That's a good one.
You get to talking, it don't happen. So there wasn't enough money for teeth usually, and they would have to... And if they didn't have a hospital there at all... Well, she wasn't very much in favor of that. And since she's been a nurse there, I guess she knows a lot about it. Well, she said that Tommy had gone to Washington with 4 other men, and somebody there had seen them all drunk. And they were just staggering around, and they were sitting down, and they had to tell them to leave from wherever they were. And she couldn't identify them, really, or either she did know, but she didn't want to say something, you know, and that wasn't true. But it was whoever went up there to talk to them, wherever they are, about Indian hospitals and this new clinic idea. Okay, that was one bit of news, that they had not behaved themselves in Washington, and that this had gotten around before the election, apparently. That Tom had been up there, and they were doing this, and so this may have contributed to his defeat. But apparently, from what she gathered, a lot of people turned against him, in spite of the fact that almost everybody, had been for him 2 years ago. And we said, or I think, that he really, his virtues outweigh his faults as far as what he's done for the tribe. Don't you think so? Although the way he did it wasn't too good, because he didn't let people in on it. You know, he didn't really communicate, go out and join the gatherings and so forth, and make himself part of the group. He kind of withdrew, or... Of course, he never had done that before, had he? He hadn't gone around to powwows and hand games, and so... In some ways, he's being perfectly honest. He wasn't trying to pretend something he didn't really do. But I think, she said he didn't know anything about those programs. Well, Tommy knew knew all about those programs. I mean, he impressed me when we interviewed him with how sharp he was about these things and what he wanted to get and the funds he wanted to get and what he wanted to do with the funds. Now, what else did we hear up there? Here's your coffee.
Well, a lot of people were for him. Auntie was.
Yeah. Aunt Viola McIntosh, she was for him. Oh, I know what everybody commented that we talked to yesterday, the two women. But the people that should have won didn't win.
Yeah.
The intelligent people, the educated people, the successful people, and they are, or were, Stacy Howell, Theda Goodfox Starr, right? Is that her name?
Yeah.
She's working on a PhD at OSU in, I think, counseling or clinical psychology. And she didn't win. And nobody has anything against her, as far as I can see. I don't know why more people didn't see her as a really great asset.
She's considered an outsider.
Has she been away from the tribe a lot?
All her life.
Oh, well, that settles it. Well, then how about, is that why Stacy Howell didn't win? Because he's been away too long?
Probably.
And he was the superintendent of an Indian school out there near Taos, and well educated and what have you. So who else did
lived around Pawnee all his life before World War I. So he'd know. He would know.
He'd know a lot. He'd know the people at least. Well, yeah. Well, then
he'd know what, you know. He was around there during the hard times, so he's the old hardcore ended, you know. He was trying to go to school then. That he was going to school at OSU at that time, you know, a semester now and then and things like that, you know. And his wife was working at the hospital there as a blue girl, and he started to he got jobs around there, you know. He'd say, well, there's some money appropriated, and so I'm going to be a night